Hello everyone. It's James again. And today I want to talk about something very important. And that is how the narcissist uses you and how they see you as an object. No more, no less. But this is an important topic. Because of how society has pushed overt materialism onto the population. And in the same breath it has normalized this dehumanizing treatment of others. And how it affects both men and women. And all of what we are seeing by other narcissists or narcissists' lights. Pushing new social norms, that is the main reason I believe for the loneliness problems in most Western countries. You see, there is a big talk about how most people are lonely. And then what happens is, general sweeping statements are made by those in the media. Or by those that just want to get clicks on platforms like these. Calling such people awkward, strange, and living in their mother's basements. When though there are both men and women that might fit the awkward description. I think most people do not. Most people these sweeping statements are made about would fall into the category of normal, ordinary, nothing special. They work a normal job. And they are going about their life. So if they are normal, they should have no problem and not be lonely, right? Wrong. Because you see, there has been a sweeping new norm that has overtaken society. Pushing the standards of how one is to live their life to unrealistic expectations. So much so. And we've reported on this. Where both men and women are taking to scamming and Ponzi schemes and all kinds of other criminal activity to measure up to what they think they should have to be accepted by society. You see, one of the first tip-offs for me that my ex Susie was a narcissist is when I first started to read information on the subject many years ago. One thing that stood out to me was the narcissist doesn't see you as a person. They see you as an object to be used. And if you've had the sad experience of dating or being married to a narcissist, that is exactly how you likely feel. That you are dehumanized and used. The home that my ex and I had was a nice modest home. It was decorated nicely and I really was doing my best. Yet, my ex complained all of the time about our home. Though her friends complimented our place all of the time. It seemed the goalpost kept on moving up and up and up. It seemed I would buy or do something. And it would never be good enough. The truth was she never loved me. There was nothing wrong with our home. And there was nothing wrong with our possessions. The problem was she was and is most likely an evil narcissist. And that's what narcissists do. The goalpost shifts and shifts and shifts and shifts. There is nothing. And I do mean nothing you can do to make a narcissist happy. And the more you try, the more you will sink into quicksand, metaphorically speaking. You see, when you look at the Bible, and a great many of God's most loved people, sure there were some kings and men of great wealth. But there were a great many that had nothing. There were those that had less than nothing. But they still had God's love. And we today have preachers talking about if you can't make this or if you don't have that, you are less than. And those that claim to love God will look at a person's net worth before they will even look at who they are as a human being. Look. Both men and women can be and are taken advantage of daily by narcissists. Without question. But we are all about peeling back the layers of societal narcissism on this channel. And if someone doesn't want to know why they are doing something, and they are just following the masses, this could be a dangerous person to spend your time with. You see, if you live in the Western world, men and women are socially held to different standards. But in the 40s and 50s and part of the 60s, even if you didn't have a college degree, if you were a hard worker, and you put your best foot forward, you could as a man work a basic job and take care of all of the expenses in the home. And your wife did not have to work. Not unless she really wanted to. But something happened. And this is important. Because when you see the clashes back and forth on this topic, If you have people that debate back and forth and can't see this proven fact that happened, then you can't have much of a discussion. And there is a person that is living today that was part of things back in this time and can verify what was happening. And that was certain movements starting with the letter F started to really gain steam. Now this person that I'm referring to is Erin Pizzey. She was the founder and operator of the first ever women's shelter. But during her time with this movement that started with an F, she realized something very sick and sad was happening. Those that were running these groups weren't interested in truth. And the truth was that Erin found out that just as many women in these shelters they were helping were just as abusive, if not more, than the men they were rescuing them from. Yes, there were innocent women that sadly stepped unknowingly into a bad relationship with a bad man. But at least half of the women they took in, the women were extremely violent and not good people. And this led Erin down a rabbit hole of trying to fix these generational problems so these broken people, both women and men, could have productive lives and families. But this group that starts with an F, well, Erin realized they were also part of a group that starts with C. You know, the group that starts with AC that takes people's rights away. And she realized that this group wanted to destroy relationships between both men and women, under the guise of so-called helping women. You have to understand, they created a genius strategy. They created a movement you couldn't be critical of. Because if you were critical of such a movement, they could throw ad hominem attacks against the person and say they were against women. But at the same time, and you can look this up, they would walk around with picket signs saying that all men, not some men, but all men, are these evil, horrible things that I can't describe here. And they got away with it. They got away with it. And during this time, they would work on and bully women in person out of loving and caring for their husbands or boyfriends. What I mean by that is, and this is something you can see to this day actually, if you go to a party or a gathering with a bunch of couples, and maybe some couples from a generation or two before you, and let's say there is a man there, holding doors open, pulling out the chair for his girlfriend or wife, so forth and so on. They will say, "Oh wow, he's a gentleman." And sadly, they might even say something sick like, "Oh, I see you have trained him good." Now, just to digress, what if that was said in reverse? Just think about how bad that would sound. But he's holding the chair out and doing all of these things because he loves his girlfriend or wife. But then let's say, in the middle of all of this, she gets up and puts together a plate of food for her boyfriend and she brings it to him, simply because she cares and loves him. What will happen almost on cue? At least one of the women there, at least one of them, will grill her and say, "Don't you know he has two hands? How dare you allow her to go and get you food?" They will shame the woman out of caring for the man she is with and out of wanting to do something loving and helpful and kind. But they will at the same time encourage the man to keep on doing what he is doing, holding the chairs, holding open the doors. And the women from this time will tell you, this bullying happened non-stop. And they did this to bully out of women caring for the men they were with, as a way to change them into what they wanted them to be. And sadly, around this time, jobs changed. The jobs the men could hold down where they could support an entire family weren't as plentiful. Jobs started to be outsourced. And hours were being cut. And because now you have a flood of women into the workforce, which is just fine. The companies that were hiring everyone, you had more people fighting for the same positions, and anytime something in the market gets overflooded, the value drops. So these jobs that weren't paying very well, weren't paying well for both men and women alike. And the only people that were making out like bandits were the companies. Forget about men and women arguing over this and that regarding work. The true winners are the companies, not the people working for them. But still there were those that were able to get along. They realized that this is what things are. It takes two incomes now to support a home. So the two-income household was what it took to make things happen. And oftentimes, you would never know who was making what. Because families didn't walk around talking about their husband or wife was out of work and they were having a hard time. At least those that were decent people and that loved one another. They forged ahead in their new normal and kept people out of their financial issues. And they did the best they could as a team. Now were there narcissists, women and men trying to get one over on someone because they had money? Yes. Yes, there were. And they would even get over on someone that didn't have much money. But they just had a big heart. And they would drain the little bit out of them they could and move on. And dump them to the side when they had no more to give. The problem is, saying all of this, there is now a narcissistic culture of it being normalized to not see people as people. And to use people for what they can use them for. And though both men and women can be and are narcissists at the same frequency, there are differences. And as we know, narcissists don't fight fair. And they will use every unfair advantage they have. And because men are known to be the protector and providers, the societal narcissists can very easily tap into the emotions of women, making them feel like they are missing out on life if they don't have this item or that item. And then know the men will do whatever they have to do to acquire said item, in order to secure a woman they hope loves them. And the truth is, we know in the narcissistic abuse community, that when someone says, all you have to do is give me this or that and I will love you or treat you well, you need to run as fast as you can. Because the goalpost will keep on moving up and up and up. And you will never ever get the love they are promising you. Well, the companies out there have to sell a dream and sell a lifestyle. And just like Satan tried to sell a dream and lifestyle to Eve, the societal narcissists are selling a dream to the women in the Western world. You see. Nowhere are you hearing about when picking a high-value man. Or what they call a high-value man. Do you hear anything about morals and beliefs in God? And some women that preach this evil to other women might say, get a rich man that believes in God. When to them, believing in God isn't believing in God. It's going to church. And being a part of a community and acting like that community has some great social importance. When the truth is, Joseph, or Yosef, the prince of Egypt, was sold into slavery by his brothers. And he spent many years, many harsh years in prison, for a crime he didn't commit. Which oddly enough mimics some of the false claims and false accusations that are happening to some in modern times. Then we have Job, where all of his wealth and health was taken from him. Even his children all lost their lives in horrible accidents. And he went from the richest man to barely having 2 nickels to rub together. Now was Job no longer a high-value man that no longer deserved his wife simply because these things happened? Things that God allowed the devil to do to him. You see, when the devil wants to cause problems in our life, he will try to split you up from your family. And the first thing he knows to do is hit a man right where it hurts. And that is his ability to provide. You see, I've referenced the Rocky movies many times. And there are many lessons in these movies. And you can find lessons in these movies on this topic we are talking about right now. You see, Rocky and Adrian were both broke. But they got along well and loved each other. Before Rocky got his shot to fight Apollo Creed for the World Championship. And one day, Rocky's friend said, I don't get it. What's the attraction? Meaning, why are you dating my sister? And Rocky replied, gaps. We both have gaps and together we fill gaps. What he was saying was, they both have imperfect lives, but they are better together than they are apart. And together they complement each other very well. Now after Rocky's fight and the taxes were paid on his money, he didn't have a lot left. But his first thought was he wanted to do nice things for Adrian and himself. He wanted to show her a good life. And I'm going to just say, the average man. We aren't talking about narcissism here. The average man feels this way about the woman he is with. And that woman he wants to be with if he has no one in his life. And you have to understand something. These movies did so well because they pulled upon the heartstrings of how people genuinely feel. And they could easily understand these characters and put themselves in their shoes. Well, when Rocky is trying to buy Adrian a nice coat with a wonderful fur collar, Adrian starts tugging at her nice little red winter coat she bought, likely with her saved money. As before she dated Rocky, she never really bought any nice things for herself ever. And there is a moment where she goes from frumpy to dressed up nicely on a budget. So Rocky is telling Adrian how he wants to buy her this nice coat. And she keeps tugging at her own coat and saying, her coat is just fine. As if to say, you don't have to spend all of your money on me. He wants to get a car. And she's okay to walk or ride the bus. And lets Rocky know, they don't need a car. The simple truth is, she just wanted to be there with him. That's it. Because she didn't pick him based on jobs he had or didn't have, or his education. She picked him based on his kindness. He was consistently kind to everyone he met. And he was just a simple person. But when the bills started to pile up, and Rocky got laid off from his job at the meat house moving boxes and huge slabs of meat all day, Adrian says she wants to go back to work at the pet shop. And the look on Rocky's face is that of defeat. And again, those movies did so well because there were tons of people that could identify with the look on his face. He felt like a loser. He was trying so hard and things weren't adding up. And though she wasn't giving any signs of wanting to leave him, you can see the look in his face of as if he's going to lose her. And as we know, he gets another shot at the champion and becomes the champion. He becomes super rich. And even then Adrian remains humble. When training in LA with Apollo, they are purposely roughing it in a bad motel and in bad conditions so Rocky can be ready. And Adrian is still the same humble woman she was when she was broke. And enjoys the bad motel and even makes a joke with the attempt to get Rocky to laugh. But then with bad financial management, their accountant steals their money and they lose everything. And Adrian goes back to work at the pet shop again. Going from mansions, Italian sports cars, and a $20,000 Bulgari watch that wrapped around her wrist, back to working at the pet shop she started at so many years ago. And when Rocky says to her, "Why are you working here? I have to start over again. I have to do it but you don't have to do it." Meaning, if she wanted to leave him, she could dump him to the side of the road like she never knew him. And as you can see the boxing sign of the boxing gym across the street from the pet store she works at, she replies, with almost a cry in her voice, "I wanted to be there, so I can be close to you." And you almost see the amazement in Rocky's face. Like, I just don't deserve a woman like this. You see, this is a woman that the Bible speaks of, that a man should find a good thing. If he finds a woman like that, that she is good about doing her part as a help to make sure the home and family stays together. And Adrian was in no way weak. When the chips were down, she had very hard talks with Rocky to pull him back to where he needed to be to do what he had to do. And the last time it had nothing to do with being broke. Because she accepted her situation. And hit the promoter that was trying to get Rocky to fight again. And screamed at him. As if she had been waiting to say these words for years. And those words were, "He's done. He's done fighting." Because she would rather be financially poor and have Rocky than have the chance to live in another mansion and jeopardize Rocky's long-term health. When the promoter said to Adrian, Are you tired of putting your hands in your pocket and only feeling your leg? And I'm giving you your last chance to dump this loser image. And her response was, "Who are you talking to?" As if to say, get out of here with this mess. You have got the wrong people with this BS. We actually love each other. Now, though we know that both men and women are narcissists, I think it would be blind to see that men losing their positions to where they can take care of a household by themselves. Not because they don't want to, but simply because the economics of things won't allow for such a situation to take place. Less than 1% of men, no matter how hard they work, will ever have the means to be able to do such a thing. And what does society do? They push more materialism and call people names, much like the promoter telling Adrian he's there to help them drop their loser image. The thing is, Adrian is a rare gem. And that's why the Bible speaks of such things. That a woman like Adrian is as rare as a ruby. Because if we are honest, we live in a culture where Rocky would have been called a dusty and a loser many times over. In the world we live in, Adrian would have had girlfriends telling her to leave while she can and find another pro fighter to date. I say all of this to say, there are some guys that are making fun of the ridiculously high standards of what a man must be and have before he is considered someone that should be on the dating market. He's gotta pay this bill and that bill. He's gotta have this amount of money and he's gotta buy you that just to breathe your air. And though there are some women that are standing up, saying, thank God someone is saying something. Thank God someone is doing something. Thank God someone is pushing back and showing how evil this mess is to treat someone like a disposable object. Because they are just making skits mimicking all of the outrageous things that are expected of them. But then there are some women that just can't see it. They just can't. Like Rocky said, together we fill gaps. You see, there is a loneliness problem. Because many have bought into Hollywood standards of restaurants you require to eat at, and clothes you want to wear. When Adrian is tugging at her own coat, telling Rocky, no, my coat is just fine. I don't need a new coat. As if to say, I don't want you to spend all of your money. You see, that group that threatened to delete Erin Pizzi, and as a result she had to go on the run. Simply for trying to tell the truth. The group that starts with an F that really starts with a C or M. They don't want to push togetherness. And they have divided people over greed and money. They took away the ability of men to support entire homes by themselves and then spit on them and said they just aren't working hard enough. And then they have promoted adult industry workers to promote their evil and toxic standards as a standard that all women should adopt through everything they say and do and through their music. They promote joining only fools and sugar sites. And when there is pushback, name calling happens. Instead of stepping back and thinking, wow, we are all getting duped. And here's the sad fact. Women are losing just like the men are. A woman might not know there is a good man that cares about her, that she probably would be highly attracted to. But because her senses have been overloaded with what society says she should be with, that's all she's looking at and that's all she will consider. And so she goes with such men that, you guessed it, turn out to be narcissists. Now, there can be and are narcissists in all walks of life. There are old and young and attractive and frumpy narcissists. But if a man wants to date a woman with tons of plastic surgery and a $5,000 handbag over her shoulder, you might tell this man to run. Because the red flags are all over the place. She is likely a gold digger. Well, for the men it's the same way. They are on one side and another showing their wealth. And guess what? The women go running to these men. When just like in the example with the woman with all the material things, this guy is likely a narcissist just like the woman with all of the plastic surgery and $10,000 pair of high heel boots on. But these are the role models. Yet anyone that is loving and kind, Well, they are a loser. You aren't rich, dude. Now, should you go out and do the best you can financially? Yes. But remember how the Bible tells us that it's not worth to go after certain things if we lose our soul in the process. And the standards are so high that people are resorting to elaborate criminal activity so they can live that Insta online I'm cool lifestyle. I talked about a news story where two women with their boyfriends set up and took the life of a man showing his fake Rolexes online, thinking they were real. And they didn't do all of this so they could eat another day. They did it because they wanted to turn up in the club and have fun. Because when they went into one of the woman's small apartment, they found a closet full of exclusive high-end designer clothes, like sweatshirts that cost $800 type stuff. And this new reality is being pushed. And even though all of this is going on, you see people doubling down and tripling down. And yes, women can be targets of this stuff as well. But we have to be honest. Society is constantly and on purpose, I might add, steering women away from men that will be good for them, and pushing them in the same mold of an adult industry worker. It's like watching a big train crash about ready to happen. And there is nothing you can do about it. I say all of this to say, if you are a man or woman, and you love someone that treats you well but society says they aren't what you should have, tell society to jump in a lake. Tell society to jump into a lake. Because narcissists want to divide and keep you from being with someone you were meant to be with. And they have masterfully done so by creating a culture of evil and where everyone is using everyone else. People don't see others as people, but as tools to be used and discarded. The very thing I learned about what a narcissist was or is. When I first learned about what a narcissist was or is, a thing that was supposed to be a rare happening, is now sadly normal. Using people is seen as accepted and normal. Instead of people finding each other and understanding the messed up world we live in, we'll try to mess them up at every turn. For those of you that are in the narcissistic abuse community, you might know Ollie and Charlene. Ollie is a very strong man. And I can even see it in his eyes and face when things aren't going right. Because it's that same look that Rocky had in his face when Adrian said she wants to get her job back at the pet store. He knows she loves him and she is just trying to do her part to help keep the family afloat. But for men like us, it burns. And it hurts to no end. And it makes us go out there and fight hard to do what we can to fix things. But Adrian is a rare fictional character. But Ollie found an Adrian in Charlene. They appear to be all in together. And they grew up very much the same. And they know what it's like to struggle. So if they are going to struggle, they might as well struggle together and love one another. God didn't put everyone here to show how cool they are on Instagram. We were put together so we might love one another and do the things that God wants us to do. And you would think the devil just can't walk into a room and say a few words and split up millions of people's homes, and make them think they can have a better life if they leave behind the gifts that God has given them. But the devil, sadly enough, has a pretty good track record at destroying people's families. And instead of seeing it for what it is, the people are screaming to have more misery and more evil. All in the name of using people for a short-term gain. And in the process, ending love. Well, that's all I have for today. I thank you for stopping by. And if you haven't subscribed as of yet, please do so. And if you can share this content, I would really appreciate it a lot. With that said, I do hope your day is blessed. And until next time, bye for now. And be good to yourself.